Hello again, David here, back in the shed, garage, whatever you want to call this house of wonders. And I'm working on the driver's side, or sorry, if you're in some place that drives on the right hand side of the road, it's the driver's side, but if you drive on the left hand side, it's the passenger side. Anyway, the left hand side of the car, at the back, and I'm trying to create a little patch to go in this section before I put in the factory panel that I've got, not factory but pressed panel that I bought from Rimmer Brothers. I'm going to point out that this section of the fender arch, or the wheel arch rather, has got a bit of a complex curve to it. So just as I was doing yesterday to create some of the curves on this little piece at the bottom of the inner arch, I've gone back and I took another piece of flat metal and I created, you can see it's a little bit of a profile on it. Again, that was just using the anvil and hammer, and I've welded a flange on there, and the plan is to get it in there. You can see it actually lines up not too badly. One of the things is that this tapers off to practically no profile down here where it meets the commercial pressing that I've got. So I may have to flatten that a little bit before I get it in place. The reason I'm not touching it right now is I just finished creating that weld seam along the edge. It's a little bit beefy, and I actually welded front and back for a couple of reasons. One, I want it to be strong. The other is that I'm going to have to grind it a little bit to get this slight curve on the outside edge. So I wanted there to be enough weld there to have a little bit of body that I could grind down to. Anyway, that's where I am with that little patch. Once that's done, then I'm going to see about getting ready to fit this panel in. I may not fit the panel in right away. In fact, I may go and start working on the same thing on the other side, on the right-hand side of the car, driver's side for those in the UK, or Australia, or New Zealand, or where else do they drive on the left? Anyway, I'm sure somebody will tell me. But if I leave this open, then I can use this to create a reverse template for shape if I need to on the other side. Anyway, that's where I am. Okay, quick update here. So I'm just waiting for primer to dry on the driver's side, on the left-hand side repair. And while I'm waiting for the primer to dry, rather than sit and watch that, I thought I'd start opening up this other rear fender. So this is the right-hand side. Which one did I say? It was the left-hand side that I'm waiting to dry. Sorry, left, right, whatever. So now that I've got this one opened up pretty much the same as I did on the left-hand side. The rot here in the support piece, which I knew was here, actually a little bit different. So I've done a bit of quick initial wire wheeling to see how sturdy the metal is, and actually, except for this little bit here around this access hole, it's pretty solid from about here up. Okay, remember the car's upside down now, so from here up in that direction is up. So I think my approach here is going to be slightly different than on the opposite side. So instead of pulling out this whole piece, I think what I'm going to do instead is I'll hold off a little bit on this one. I'll come back to that in a bit. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to the template that I had from the opposite side, because I kept that, and I'm going to cut along here and then along here. Again, solid down here. I'm going to have to do some flange recreation like I did on the other side. In addition to that, there's a bit of laciness showing up here in just the edge of the rear valance, so I'm going to have to address that even before I do flanges. So the order of things to come now is cut out this piece, bring the flanges back, or get rid of the flanges from about this point down, figure out how I'm going to do the repair along the edge of the valance, work on this flange here, so this flange will have to come out. This is the tail end of the trunk pan, and rebuild that flange all the way around to about this point. I think if we look over here, you can see, again, the trunk metal is really solid. I'm not sure what that flange is like. I'll have to wait till I can get some of that off. The other thing that I've found is, in opening this up, is there is some rust through here in the inner wheel, or sorry, the outer wheel arch. I'm going to have to address that with a patch, and then all along the edge of this roll for the outer wheel arch, all of this is rotted away up to about this point. Now, so I cut this here because even the fender portion was rusty. I'm not 100% sure how far the inner wheel arch rot goes, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a nice clean cut along here, maybe to about this point. Pull this curved section of the fender, the wheel arch of the fender out, and then take a look at what condition the wheel arch is on the inside. Address any metal issues that I've got there, and then I can weld that piece back into place as long as I'm careful and clean with the removal. So that's the next few steps. Maybe an update when I weld that other little patch, the one that corresponds to this on the other side, or maybe not. I mean, it's a fairly trivial bit. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit today, but okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to cut out a section here. So I've done the cuts, just have to drill out those spot welds so I can take that off. I think the arch behind it feels fairly solid, and this is not doing a whole lot of wiggling, so I think that's a good sign, but we'll see. Pulled off some of this, going to have to rebuild this flange all along here. While I was back here, I got the wire wheel out on the angle grinder, pardon me, and started seeing how deep the rot goes. So it's not really any worse than I thought along here. So pretty much all along this seam along the edge of the valance. So for this section up here, where I've got it open already, pardon me, I'll recreate this curve here with some hammer and dolly work on the anvil. Replace that, recreate a flange, flanging, big piece here. I'll come back to this section later along the upper edge, or the upper side of the valance, and probably a nice clean cut there, put a new flange in, and Bob's your uncle. What I did notice though is, while I was working back here, something I'd kind of noticed before but wasn't certain of, and this looks like it's had a bit of a ding back here. This, I'm not sure how easy to tell, kind of light, maybe a bit better light on it. No, it's still hard to tell. Anyway, it's dished in here around where the lights go, just ever so slightly, maybe 3/8 of an inch or so off of the flat. See that? So that's supposed to be flat there, and it's not. So I'm going to oh, there we go, that's better. now you can see. Oh, it's more than 3, it's an inch. No, there we go. So I'm going to try and work that out with a hammer and dolly before I start working on any of this other stuff here. Just want to get that straightened up. Anyway, that's what I mean by kind of jumping all over the place today. Okay, that hammer and dolly straightening was way easier than I thought it was going to be. So maybe 2 minutes of tapping away at that, and now that gap is mostly gone. It's not perfectly flat yet. I think that'll have to wait until I've got the car in an easier to access position, like on the frame or something. But wow, so just had to show that because I couldn't believe how quickly that went. Okay, another mini update. I'm now really glad that I decided to come back this way around the fender well. So that came out, and this is what I see. So rust up to about this point, but after that, actually that's relatively clean metal there. So wire wheel that, clean up the inside, and that can just go back in there when we're ready, and tie that back in. There we go. Now it's just a quick look at the build-up starting back here. So I've done the small patch on the rear valance at the bottom of it, and I'll proceed later and do the rest of this along here after I get this rest of this stuff sorted out. For now, I'm going to leave this. I'll come back to it in a bit. So next step is to put a flange on here, and then a flange on here, and then I think I'll be able to sort that piece afterwards. Exciting. Alright, well, it's almost 5 o'clock on Friday night, so this is going to be my wrap-up for the day. Pretty happy with the way today's been going. So I've gotten the flange on this part for the rear valance, and that patch along the back, that's actually looking like pretty good. And while I've had the vehicle upside down and these rear fenders open, I've also had taken the opportunity to shoot a whole bunch of rust converter in there, because there's flash rust or surface rust all along the top edges on both sides. So I've been trying to get in there as far as I can reach with a brush and loosen up anything, clean it out with the air gun, and then give it a shot of rust converter. I know it's not perfect, but at least it's something, and hopefully when I take this for blasting, some of those crevices and crannies can be cleaned up a bit more. Anyway, as I said, that is a wrap up for today. We'll see you later.